Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're cracking open the cover of what's gotta be the largest, most dangerous, and honestly most mysterious book to ever emerge from 13th century Europe. It's an artifact so incredibly massive and so controversial that it's been hidden away from the public eye for centuries. We are looking at the infamous Codex Gigas.
So, I want you to imagine something for a second. What if there was a Bible written not by prophets, but by Satan himself? Right? It sounds like a complete paradox, or maybe even pure fiction. But this incredible contradiction, a holy religious text supposedly penned by the devil, is exactly what we are going to dive into today.
Section 1. Surviving War and Fire. Okay, let's dive into this. To really grasp the gravity of the Codex Gigas, we first have to look at its journey. And wow, the history of this artifact is just as violent and chaotic as the dark legends that surround it. This thing didn't just sit quietly on a library shelf. In 1618, the devastating 30 Years' War erupted across Europe, a brutal conflict that ultimately claimed around 8 million lives. As the war finally drew to a close in 1648, the victorious Swedish army looted the Bohemian region of Prague. They actually snatched this massive book as a prize of war and hauled it all the way back to Sweden. Decades later, in 1690, the Tre Corner Palace in Stockholm caught fire, literally destroying almost everything of value inside. Yet somehow, amidst the ashes, the Codex Gigas survived the flames. But surviving that fire came with a pretty dark and lingering whisper. People in the palace actually started to believe that the book itself sparked the inferno. A terrifying legend spread like wildfire that anyone who dared to open its salvage pages died under completely mysterious circumstances. It became so feared that it was essentially banned and hidden away in the dark vaults of the Swedish Royal Library, locked totally out of sight from anyone who might be tempted to read it. Section 2. Anatomy of a Giant. To truly wrap your head around the Codex Gigas, you really have to understand its sheer monstrous scale. 75, that number is the weight of this book in kilograms. To put that into perspective, its dimensions are 92 centimeters long, 50 centimeters wide, and 31 centimeters thick. It is an absolute behemoth. You literally need at least 2 people just to heave it off a table. And this brilliantly illustrates the macabre physical components of the artifact. I mean, these pages aren't made of paper. They're heavy vellum, crafted from the skins of approximately 160 donkeys. The ink spread across those pages was meticulously created from crushed insects. The whole shebang is bound together in heavy iron and thick leather. And inside, across 310 pages, you find incredibly dense, extraordinarily difficult calligraphy. It is just an overwhelming, visceral piece of history. Section 3. The Holy and the Unholy. Now, the physical weight of the Codex is absolutely nothing compared to the jarring duality of what's actually inside it. The first half of the book is entirely holy. It contains the complete Latin Vulgate Bible, God's commandments, Jewish history, and even ancient medical practices. But then, right at page 289, there's a sharp, terrifying pivot. You're presented with a painting of the heavenly city, but it's completely empty. There are no humans anywhere. The dark implication being that Satan won't let humans live happily in heaven. Immediately opposite that, on page 290, is a grotesque, 19-inch tall portrait of Satan himself. He's depicted with a green face, red eyes, horns, and he's wearing royal ermine, which is a fabric reserved strictly for kings. From that portrait onward, the holy text just vanishes, replaced entirely by dark magic and step-by-step exorcism guides. And then we reach the end. Except, well, we don't. The final 10 pages of the Codex Gigas have been violently torn out, ripped completely from the heavy spine. To this day, rumor has it that those missing pages contained the exact unholy rituals required to summon the devil into our world. Section 4. A Deal with Lucifer. Which brings us to the most chilling question of all. Who on earth wrote this massive tome? According to a historical record found right inside the text itself, known as the Historia de Gentibus, the crucial point is understanding the fate of a monk named Herman the Recluse. After breaking his sacred monastic vows and allegedly stealing from the people, Herman was caught. The abbot sentenced him to immurement. If you aren't familiar, this is a horrific ancient punishment where a living person is literally bricked alive inside a wall, left in absolute darkness to slowly die of dehydration and starvation. So as the bricks are being laid around him, Herman begged for his life.
He promised that if they gave him just one single night, he would write a glorious book that would encompass all human knowledge and glorify the monastery forever. Surprisingly, the officials agreed, leaving him to his task. But as midnight crept closer, Herman realized it was utterly impossible. Desperate, he closed his eyes and prayed, not to God, but to Lucifer. The dark legend claims the devil actually appeared. Herman traded his eternal soul in exchange for the book's completion, and Lucifer supposedly possessed the monk, writing the entire 75-kilogram book in a single night.
Section 5, the handwriting paradox. Now, what's really interesting here is when we shift away from the supernatural myth, we have to look at a modern unresolved scientific paradox regarding this book. You see, researchers have analyzed the Codex Gigas extensively. They concluded that to write this book by hand perfectly, it would take a single human being at least 30 years of nonstop daily writing. And think about it, over 3 decades, a human's handwriting naturally changes. It alters due to aging, shifts in health, mood, and sheer physical fatigue. Yet when experts study the incredibly difficult calligraphy of the Codex Gigas, they find zero variation. Absolutely none. From the first word on page 1 to the final surviving sentence, the pen strokes are perfectly, chillingly uniform. It completely defies human physical capabilities.
Today, the book remains securely locked inside the National Library of Sweden. You can only view it in a digital library. Physical access is strictly forbidden to the public. So I leave you with this to ponder. Given the sheer scale, the bizarre and unholy contents, and the impossible uniformity of the handwriting, did human hands truly craft this in isolation, or is there a darker truth hiding in the ink of the Devil's Bible? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember to keep questioning what you think you know.